The NHL isn't ready for this. Is following what was an absolutely ludicrous game 2 that saw Max Domi put the Leafs on his back in overtime. Following that game, we have some wild new reports, rumors, and comments from some players both on the Leafs side and the Senators side that have fans fired up. But the NHL is not ready for what's about to happen next. I'll write down exactly what that is and discuss what this means going forward. But before we get into it, folks, if you're part of the percentage who aren't subscribed to the channel, this is the place to be for the best Leafs content on YouTube and daily Leafs content. So if you're part of the 71% who aren't subscribed to the channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Darius coming off of a huge win last night, and we're back at it tomorrow. But in the meantime, the NHL is not ready for what is about to happen. And this was a game in yesterday night's game that really it kind of cemented this Leafs team as being different. They got outplayed for most of this game. They come out, they get the win. But I want to dive into some of the comments. I think that's where the difference is going to be made. The way and the attitude that this team has. You can see this here from Max Domi on the win with his dad in attendance. Big win, on to the next one. Now we're just getting started, so it's only going to feel better as we go. And again, you have Anthony Stolarz, destroying Ridley Gregg in net. I was just caught up in the heat of the battle. I didn't even know who it was. Yeah, okay. I don't know if I believe him there, but he'll say that regardless. Darius, a huge win. I don't know if, as Leafs fans, we're obviously been used to the Leafs getting eliminated, all those things for the first time in, over 2 decades. The Toronto Maple Leafs are up 2-0 in a series. What matters most is how they responded to what was a terrible stretch of play there. I don't want to be negative, but they do need to clean that up. But I don't think the NHL is ready for this team if Anthony Stolarz is playing at this caliber as well.
Well, I think the most terrifying thing that the NHL isn't ready for right now, and is if the Leafs, make it to the second round at this point, is the fact that they're playing brutal games like that, and they can still pull out a win because of the roster that they have now and the philosophy that they're playing under Craig Berube, right? I think that it's very impressive what they did last night, despite not playing for the second and third period, right? Let's call it what it is. Like, again, we have to touch on the negativity a little bit because it is what happened. The first period was fantastic, and they were building off exactly what they did in game 1. The second and third, they stopped playing, and then you get a nice play there from Simone Benoit over to Max Domi, and you get the big goal, right? And Max Domi with some great comments post-game. Stolarz, I think that got the crowd fired up, and I think it just instills something different in the fan base right now that we haven't felt in a long time, right? And he knew exactly who that was. He knew that it was Ridley Gregg and his crease. I think he just doesn't want to stir up anything in the media. But nonetheless, I mean, you love to see that from your goaltender standing up for himself and his teammates. And then, again, they get the job done, right? All anybody's going to remember is the result at the end of the day. And then, you have Senators fans on the other side of things saying that the Sens are dominating play 5-on-5, which, again, isn't true in last night's game either, right? Like the Leafs are right there with them, if not playing better at 5-on-5 at times. So, that's not true either. And you still lost. Were the Sens better last night? Yes. And I think the Leafs were expecting that. The Leafs have to get back to playing their game. And that's something that is going to be a topic of conversation over the next 2 days. But the fact that they were able to come out with that win, and I think that they will bounce back because, for the majority of that game, they didn't play well. They didn't play their game. They're going to have a bounce back performance in game 3. They have an opportunity to go up 3-0. And they're up 2-0 right now. That hasn't been done since 2002 for the Leafs. So they're in a very good spot right now.
Yeah, they were way too passive once they got the 2-0. I mean, they got the 2-0 lead early in the game, 8 minutes into the game, 12 minutes into the game, whatever it was, and then coasted from there on out. And on the flip side of things, even both goals the Senators had in that game were kind of lapses in the Leafs' part and a little bit unlucky. If OEL just continues with the puck there, doesn't try to do the drop pass, of course, a bit of confusion between him and the other Leaf. And of course, Benoit's partner wasn't near the play, or wasn't near the puck at least. So a weird decision by OEL. The other goal bounced in off Brendan Carlo, a bit of a lapse by Benoit there, or Carlo, whoever you want to call it. But regardless of that, the Leafs got the win. None of the goals are Stolarz' fault. He's been as locked in as we've ever seen him for the past month. Even dating back, he had 3 out of his 4 last games for shutouts. Like, this guy is unbelievable. And following that one shaky goal in game 1, none of the rest of the goals are really his fault. And I hate saying that, goals aren't the goalie's fault, but it's pretty true in this case. And let's dive into Travis Green, because we have to do this now. What he said after game 1. Now, after game 2, I really like the way we played tonight. Looking forward to the next game, which is fair. I don't, that makes sense, obviously, from their perspective. To be fair, the Senators did play well. They bounced back. They played a much better game than they did in game 1, in game 2. However, you can see here and how, Brady Tkachuk, we'll dive into Travis Green again in a minute. There's not 1 ounce of panic down in this locker room. Just shows how much we're going to need this city, how much we're going to need the Canadian Tire Center to be buzzing. We're looking forward to getting home. And honestly, there's not 1 ounce of panic. And I'm hoping that Leafs fans go out and absolutely tear the roof down from the Leafs side of things and really just throw a gut punch to the Senators. And I have full faith that the Leafs fans are going to do that. The Scotiabank Arena, pretty loud again tonight. Not quite as loud as game one. There were some lulls in play for fans to be less. But even when those lulls were happening, you still hear a, Brady sucks chant, Allmark here and there. So I'm loving the vibe from that. But Sens are still confident, which, to be fair, I guess they have to be. And if you're the coach, I'm not going to, hate on Travis Green for this comment. You kind of have to. But his other comment here was interesting. And he kind of just dives into the fact that there's not 1 ounce of panic. And both Brady Tkachuk said it. You have, I believe Travis Green said it as well, that they're not panicked. They're not worried, which is interesting because, they're down 2-0, which is not impossible to come back from, but it's definitely a difficult feat.
I don't think that, for a team in their position, you shouldn't panic, right? That's not the course of action you should take, because then you can go down 3-0 very quickly. But if you look at what's in front of you, you can go down 3-0. And if you do, I mean, that is almost impossible. Again, we're talking about the Leafs here, and we know the history of the last couple of years, but it's almost impossible to come back from 3-0. Has it been done? Yes, but literally a handful of times ever in the history of the sport. So, again, I'm not saying that the team should panic or say that they're going to panic, but to come out and say those words exactly is a little weird. I understand why he's saying it, but, for Brady Tkachuk to come out and say that, he's excited to go home too. I mean, it's going to be home ice advantage for the Leafs back in Ottawa as well. Like, that building is going to be full of Leafs fans. I'm not saying it's going to be 100% Leafs fans, but I think it's going to be a majority of Leaf fans in that building. So you are going home. It is your home rink in terms of the boards and the bounces and stuff like that. But, there's going to be a lot of Leaf fans there, and the atmosphere is going to be incredible. And the Leafs have an opportunity to, again, go up 3-0 in the series. This is a huge opportunity for this team to, make life easy for themselves and, get a berth in the second round here. So, and pretty easily as well. Like, if they can wrap this up in 4 or 5 games, like, you're in pretty good shape. So, again, they have a great opportunity in front of them. I understand why the Sens are saying stuff like that, but it's almost time to panic for them, because, you lose a game where I thought they were better than the Leafs last night, right? And again, they didn't come out with the win. So this is pretty exciting for the Leafs and their fans, I think.
Yeah, to be able to pull out a win. I don't think they do this under last year's team under Sheldon Keefe. I think the mindset is different. Morgan Riley spoke out of Max Domi. Every day is a real privilege, and you play with guys like him. For him to have that moment in overtime at home, extremely special. And he had a rough game before that. A lot of turnovers, bad defensive play, and he redeemed it all with an overtime goal. And that's all it takes in the playoffs. You can forget about all your regular season performances. He had a pretty bad regular season too as a whole. Same with Morgan Riley. And now the two guys we're talking about in the screenshot here, both, Domi with the game-winning goal, Morgan Riley has more goals than Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, all these guys, and he's a defenseman, albeit he kind of kicked one in, but it was off his foot. So things are looking very good. And Morgan Riley, on the other hand, he's looked very good. And also something that's kind of gotten lost in this a little bit. You obviously look at the expected goals chart. The Leafs, came out ahead for most of the game. Morgan Riley is playing really good defensively as well, or at least responsible enough defensively. Look at some of the advanced metrics. His offensive game has been good, but he's been playing responsible defensively. I'm not seeing him make those stretch passes that were really bad that we saw in the regular season, turnovers in the defensive zone. It's kind of been OEL who's kind of taken that a little bit, a little bit of nerves, whatever it ends up being, even though OEL won a cup last year. I know that's not the hit on OEL. He had a bit of a rough game. And I'm only saying that because the Leafs won with a lot of players not really having a great game. The core four being a little bit quiet. One of Matthew Knies' not worst games in the playoffs, but a little bit quiet, a little bit. He almost looked not nervous, but he was, like you mentioned in the stream, switching between wings, doing a bunch of interesting things. All that to say, the Leafs won, and Anthony Stolarz, he did his thing, and now it's on to the next game, because man, oh man, what a fantastic one, and it was an exciting one.
It was a very exciting game. I think the fan base was hyped up coming into this one. You're feeling really good about game one. And then it started off fantastic and they stopped playing and the nerves start to creep back in. But I think the Leafs and Max Domi give you that confidence again. You're up 2-0. You're the job's not done. We all know that, right? But going back to Ottawa, like I said, you have a great opportunity. Your goalie is feeling himself and he's beating guys up, actively beating guys up for coming into his crease. So he's feeling himself. I think your top guys are playing like top guys. Again, like you said, Knies, I don't know if he had a negative impact per se on the game, but he was quiet last night, right? A couple other guys like Domi, Robertson, these guys are not having a positive impact on the game, but Domi comes out with the overtime winner and you just stick around in a game where you are getting outplayed. And we all expected Ottawa to have that pushback in this game. We knew they were going to settle down. Things were going to settle down. There's only one power play for the Leafs in this game. They made good use of it, right? Which is the reason why they won. But These are things that you have to consider kind of moving forward. And I think the Leafs are going to have a bounce back in game 3, which is exciting because they're going to have an opportunity to, again, put their best foot forward and go up 3-0. So the fact that they came away with this game is awesome. This is going to be down the road. If the Sens end up winning 1 game, 2 games, you're going to look back at this game and be like, could have been a different series. So it's going to be exciting moving forward. And again, let's try and wrap this up in 4 or 5 here.
Yeah, obviously, Chris Tanev, speaking about the heightened level that Ottawa was going to play at, they did. And ultimately, they didn't get the job done. We'll keep you up to date with all the latest news. I suspect some moves coming later today at practice. We'll keep you up to date with all that. Make sure to hit the subscribe button. Thank you guys for watching.